Oklahoma Gardening is a production of the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the land grant mission of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University, dedicated to improving the quality of life of the citizens of Oklahoma through research-based information. Southwood Landscape and Garden Center, Tulsa's source for great gardens, southwoodgardencenter.com. And the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing. Welcome to Oklahoma Gardening. On today's show, we look at a high-tech sprinkler head that you control with your phone. Consumer horticulture specialist David Hillock has the new Oklahoma Proven plants. Barbara Brown prepares mushroom turkey burgers, and we celebrate Parking Day with OSU landscape architecture students.
Today we wanted to talk about our Oklahoma Proven selections for this year. And we'd like to start with our collector's choice, which is the Chinese date, or jujube. Ziziphus is the genus. It's a wonderful tree. As you can see that we have some here on campus. They're actually very ornamental, but the added benefit is they have edible fruits as well. So the foliage is very beautiful. It's a glossy green. The tree has a nice graceful habit because it has drooping or arching branches. The branches are also in a zigzag pattern. And then the foliage can be a nice bright yellow in the fall time. But the best part, of course, is the fruit. So you can see here we have a couple of fruit, and actually these are about in the ripened stage. When they are green and starting to turn to a reddish brown, they have a nice consistency like an apple. So they're nice and crisp. And then they have a single stone in the middle. As they continue to mature, they get more reddish brown in color, and when they're fully mature, they'll actually start to wrinkle. And they'll have kind of like, you know, a date-like flavor and appearance to them, thus the other common name of Chinese date. So these trees are actually pretty tough. They will do very well under a wide range of soil conditions, though they really don't like heavy clay soils and poorly drained soils. They'll tolerate a little bit of drought tolerance once they get established, but they respond very well to some added, irrigation throughout the summer months. They're also really pest-free plants. Our tree for this year is the genus Cheonanthus, which is the fringe tree. As you can see here, it can be actually a small or a large shrub and can grow into a small tree. And it can be multi-stemmed, as we see here, or it can actually be trained into a single-stemmed tree as well. The neat thing about the Cheonanthus is that we have a native species, Cheonanthus virginicus, which is native to Oklahoma. And then there's a Chinese cousin that's also very popular in the trade. But the nice thing about these plants is they have nice dark green glossy leaves that can also turn yellow in the fall time. The spectacular part of these plants are the spring flowers. Actually late spring, early summer, they have these terminal flowers that are long, kind of frilly looking, fringy looking, and they're nice creamy white. So when this plant's in flower, this whole thing is just covered with white, beautiful flowers. And then from those flowers, we can also get some fruit. So actually, Cheonanthus is male and female trees. Though some of them will have perfect flowers on them as well. And so if you have a female or has a plant that has perfect flowers on it, you'll get these little tiny fruits that follow, kind of bluish black in color. And these are also great for wildlife. Our shrub for this year is the sable minor, or dwarf palmetto. It is the only plant in the palm family that's actually native to Oklahoma. And it's found growing in southeastern Oklahoma, as well as Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana, in very wet soils, actually swampy soils. So it tolerates wet soils very well. It tolerates shade really well. And it's just a tough plant. It's kind of a slow growing palm, but it can, over time, if conditions are right, just reach probably about 8 or 10 feet tall. Our annual is Crosandra, or firecracker flower. This plant is actually native to Sri Lanka and that area, very tropical. In fact, in its native habitat, it can reach to be a 2 to 4 foot shrub, woody shrub. But here it's an annual, and you can see it has beautiful, bright, glossy green leaves and these beautiful, frilly orange flowers. In this case, I think this is probably marmalade or orange marmalade, which is a very popular cultivar right now within the Crosandra. But it also comes in red and tangerine colors and even a yellow form as well. They will do really well, as you can guess, in full sun in our humidity, but they also tolerate some bright shade. Our perennial for this year is the genus Asclepias, which is the milkweeds. And these have gained a lot of attention recently because of the concern for our monarch butterfly habitats. In Oklahoma, we have over 24 species of Asclepias. They grow throughout the whole state, and each one of them is important to pollinators and especially the monarch butterflies. They grow in wide varieties of soils and conditions. There's some that grow in wet soils, some that grow in drier soils. They're very drought tolerant. And a lot of them provide both the food for the larvae of the monarch butterfly, as well, of course, as the nectar, which is energy that they need when they are migrating. Well, these are our plants for this year, but we have a whole list of plants that go back as far as 1999 when we began this program. So if you want more information about these and other plants that we have promoted over the years, visit our website or go and contact your county extension office.
So we're up here at the peach tree, and it is a beautiful example for a homeowner. You know, the homeowners that have a hard time doing a lot of the things that we need to do to get peaches to this size, and I'm excited that you have a nice big fruit that you've been harvesting lately, you said.
Yeah, it's been great this year. Last year we got 1 peach off of this tree, and this year I finally decided I would get that OSU fact sheet out and follow the directions. But you do have to spray it a lot early on to keep the insects down. And also when it got a little bit cold and it was blooming, we were worried about frost. We came out here and put a quilt on it at night to keep it from freezing. And
that saved it, I think, because we did get pretty cool back in April. And but you know, peach tree takes a lot of work to do. You know, you got to select the right variety first of all, and then you've got to worry about keeping it pruned, keeping the frost out of it, and then taking care of the disease and the insects that you have to do. So to get a peach, you know, this far along, I'm sure you know, you're going to have to be spraying about every 2 weeks, and that's really what it takes. And you know, there's some organic options there that can help, but to keep the foliage clean and keep the fruit good and clean and worm free, it does unfortunately take a lot of sprays to take care of the peach this much. So.
If I would have known how much work it was, I'm not sure I would have put a peach in, but right now I'm really enjoying the fruit.
Right, yeah, and you know, people come into our office and they want to grow their own fruit, and we try to tell them, you know, it's going to take a lot of work, not only from the spraying side, but the pruning side and protecting it from frost and all the other stuff, you know, and then you get peach tree borers. And this particular one, I see a little bacterial spot on it, but that's pretty common. I mean, you know, you're out there spraying, and we've got a lot of moisture in the ground, in the air, and it's really just a covering. It's not going to hurt anything, but they'll still make a good peach pie or a good peach ice cream. That's for sure. On this tree, you also down at the bottom, you see a little oozing that you see from the trunk, and more than likely that is a lesser peach tree borer that is getting in there. And again, pretty common with peaches and a lot of homeowner situations. Our growers are fighting that always, you know, constantly fighting it. Luckily they can spray some sprays that they don't have to spray every 2 weeks, but maybe every month. That helps keep those off. But it's pretty common. Peach trees are, you know, we're gonna start bearing fruit about this third year, and then, you know, if taken care of correctly, we're going to be able to get a peach crop for about up until about 14, 18 years old. And then they probably need to be taken out and revamped and start over. So,
well, I've enjoyed this one.
Great, beautiful example of peaches.
Dr. Luanella, we're here at the Botanic Garden at Oklahoma State University. You're the director of this beautiful place here.
Thank you, thanks.
And we're at kind of your front yard of the Botanic Garden. And it's some beautiful Bermuda grass, a little bit of fescue under the trees. And I suppose you have to maintain this, you have to irrigate it, is that correct?
We do. For years we've been irrigating it by hand, just with garden hoses and sprinklers. But we really wanted to save some labor and also get a better product. And so we've installed a brand new irrigation system here called the Irrigreen product.
Wow, so I see this area here, it's got some zigs and zags and some jogs to it. How do you irrigate that exactly?
Well, that's why we're so excited about this new system. You put one head in the center and it adjusts its radius based on the shape of the garden.
Wow.
So it's revolutionary. You know, it's a brand new product. No other product does anything like this. And there are lots of advantages to it.
So if I'm doing this, you know, a traditional system, I may have to have, I don't know, several heads here, maybe even a couple different zones. How does this work exactly?
Well, that's one of the great advantages of it, is that you put that one head in the center. For a traditional system, you'd have to go out to the edges and put heads all along the edges, maybe a few in the center. And if you have corners like we do here, you'd have to put one head in each corner. So for an area like this, it might take 9 heads.
Sure.
Now we just have the one.
Wow.
And if you only have to install one head, you have to do a lot less digging. And that was the other advantage for us. You know, we're a botanic garden. We didn't want to dig up this entire yard. And so we had to do very little digging just to get the one head in the center rather than those all around the edges. We actually have 5 different heads, 5 zones for this entire yard, but it probably would have taken 40 for a traditional system.
Wow. So you've got me excited. You guys, tell me how this works. Where's the pipe? Where are the heads? How does it work?
So the heads are right off of the main. So we have one main running right down the middle of the yard, and then the heads are tapped into the main. And the other thing about this system, traditionally you throw head to head. So the water from this sprinkler has to hit this. With this, you don't. With the Irrigreen system, it's not head to head. So this head throws this far, this head throws that far. So you really have a lot longer radius or a lot longer area that you can water with fewer heads. So that's another advantage.
So how far, so you know, if we get a little technical here, say I've got a 50 or 60 psi and say I've got, you know, I know my flow. How far am I throwing, like 10 feet, 50 feet? How does this work exactly?
This head will throw a maximum of about 35 feet.
Okay.
But we keep it at 30. We decided that we weren't going to throw further than 30 feet. So it's throwing 30 feet. So if this head's throwing 30 and this head's throwing 30, the heads are 60 feet apart.
Okay, I see.
Which is much further than you would normally have in a traditional system.
Right. And so you've got to show me this thing. How are you going to water this and keep, well, obviously you're keeping it green, so how does it not get the sidewalk wet?
It's all computerized. So Gary Kleinfelter's an engineer that developed this product, and it has a flow sensor on the main. And so you calibrate the system with that flow sensor. And so it knows what flow is coming through the system. And with an app on your phone, you program what distance you want it to throw.
Wow.
So I set the head to be throwing at that sidewalk, and then I set the distance to end just before we hit the sidewalk. And then with the app, you rotate the head, set another point, and you keep going around. And what's really cool is you could set a point over here and set a point over here. You don't have to worry about all those points in between. The computer calculates the radius between those two distances. So it's really, really interesting.
Okay, so if I wanted to do this, say in my home lawn, can you give me a ballpark of what are we talking about with cost and things like that?
It's probably more expensive than, it's definitely more expensive than a traditional system, but you've got savings in product. So you don't have to buy as many heads, you have the savings in the labor, you don't have to do as much trenching, you don't have to buy as much pipe. So, you know, I don't know exactly how it works out dollar for dollar, but there's probably cost savings as well. So this has shown to be as efficient and as uniform as traditional systems, but using about 40% less water. So you've got water savings and water conservation. That's a money saver as well.
So higher upfront costs, but I can save water and save some of that labor to put it in. And it looks like to me still have a beautiful yard.
It's doing a great job. So we installed it this spring, early this spring. It's been irrigating all summer. We've had rain this past week, but we have not had rain in the middle of the summer. And this is the greenest this lawn has ever been.
So you've got automation, you've got what's going on out here?
I like to call this the most high-tech lawn in America.
I agree.
We've got this brand new irrigation system, and we also mow this lawn with a robot.
Wow.
So we have a robotic mower that was donated by Husqvarna, and it has mowed this lawn for 2 years.
Wow.
And has done a fantastic job.
So no humans needed, right?
No humans needed.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Nella. This is great.
Thanks.
Today we're celebrating Parking Day. The third Friday of September is International Parking Day. Around the globe, there's literally thousands of temporary parks, such as you see here today. So the idea is that you take a parking space, which is normally used by a car, and turn that into a people space.
Today we're going to do mushroom turkey burgers. Now this is a recipe that is written a little different than others. Research has shown that a lot of us don't use all of our safety procedures. We know we're supposed to do them, but we just don't remember when we're actually making the food. So these recipes that have come out actually have the steps. So the first step is wash your hands, which I've just finished doing. As I said, it's mushroom turkey burger, so we'll see how the other part of that goes. But I've got a pan warmed up to about medium high. I'm going to add a tablespoon of oil to it. You could use whatever kind of oil you've got on hand. I'm using just a regular vegetable oil. Looks like it might be just a little bit high. I'm going to turn it down. And then I've got 8 ounces of mushrooms that I've chopped fairly well. I want to get them down to about the size of the ground meat that I'm going to use, which is ground turkey. So I've got them chopped up fairly fine. You don't have to go all the same size, nor do you have to go excessively small, because remember, these are going to have water in them. They're going to shrink as they cook. So I'm going to stir them together a little bit here, try and get them coated with oil. And then they're going to cook somewhere between 5 to 7 to 8 minutes, depending on how high your heat is, whether you have breeze blowing over it like we do today. We just want to get them till they're starting to turn kind of golden. Okay, you can see we've started turning a little bit golden brown. So I'm going to turn these off. And we want them to cool for about 5 minutes, because when we're going to add them to the meat, we don't want those to be cooking the meat for us. So I'm going to put a towel here, take this off the heat, although this burner actually turns off fairly well. All right, we'll let those sit. I've got a pound of ground turkey. Ground turkey comes in a variety of degrees of fatness, so choose the one that is most appropriate for you. We're adding some oil to the pan as we go. We've added it for the mushrooms. We'll add it again later. So even a thinner one is going to cook fairly well. I've got one that's got a little bit more fat because a lot of that flavor comes from there too. But again, choose the one that's best for you. To this, I'm going to add a tablespoon of, or part of a tablespoon, as some blows away, of onion powder, half a teaspoon of black pepper, half a teaspoon of kosher salt, and then a tablespoon of soy sauce. Now, this is where we're going to get our hands dirty again, so I'm going to wash mine before I start working with the meat because I want to make sure that I'm not transferring anything into it. Remember, when you wash your hands, you're using soapy water, and you should wash them for approximately 20 seconds. Make sure you get all of your hands as well. This is partly the reason that you shouldn't be wearing a lot of jewelry while you're cooking, because microorganisms are going to hide under jewelry. You also don't want to lose stones into the food as you're cooking. So this is ready for us to work with. You can work with either a spoon or a spatula, or you can work with your hands. There's not a rule against working with your hands unless you have a sore on your hands, in which case you'd wear a plastic glove over that. You don't want to work it too much. We don't want to overwork the meat. It tends to make it more tough, which in turn makes it less juicy. But we do want to incorporate all those ingredients that we just added so that one person doesn't get to enjoy them all and the other people don't get to enjoy any of them. You're going to spread that out just a little bit. Wash hands again. And now we're going to add our mushrooms. Now the reason for the adding of the mushroom is that we've chopped it up so that it resembles the size of the meat that we're using. Mushrooms have a lot of that fifth taste, umami, so we get a lot of flavor. And as long as we keep the quantity of mushroom down around 20 to 25% of the quantity that we're working with, most people really don't notice a lot that there's mushroom there. So if you like the flavor of the mushroom, you may want to bump it up. If you don't want people to, or you don't in fact like the flavor of the mushroom, then you can decrease the amount a little bit. But it keeps the meat moister and also adds flavor without us having to add a lot of other ingredients that might increase the sodium content. I've used soy sauce and salt in here already, which you think, well, she's adding those ingredients anyway, but I've used a light soy sauce or a lower sodium soy sauce so that I've got less than I might have otherwise. Okay, we're just going to work these in, and when that's worked in, we're going to divide it and make 4 patties out of it. And then we're going to put a little bit more oil in our pan, bring that back up to heat, and we're going to cook them on each side for about 5 minutes. The pan has been wiped out, it's heated up a little bit again, and another tablespoon of vegetable oil. You could use a nonstick vegetable spray on this if you chose, or if you have a pan that's a little bit tricky to make things come out, you could actually use both. So just make sure that you get it up to heat before you start adding your ingredients. You can see that the patties are formed the way you would form any kind of meat patty. I've got an indentation in the center a little bit because it's going to shrink up, and that's going to give you a little bit more even patty as they cook. Once we get these in, the recipe is going to tell you to once again wash your hands. 5 minutes, flip them, 5 minutes. Check the heat. You may want to look under them a little bit. If they start to get a little bit too glazed or too dark on the bottom, you can go ahead and flip them over. There's not a rule that says you can't flip them more than once. You just don't want to press on them when you do. Okay, once these have cooked and you think they're getting pretty close, then it's time to take the temperature. This is how you tell when meat is done, not poking it or hoping for the best. But in order to take the temperature of something that's fairly thin, like a ground beef patty, or in this case turkey patty, we need to do it in from the side as opposed to down from the top. So what I'm going to do is insert the thermometer and rest it on top of another one. And since these are poultry, we want the temperature to get up to 165. If you're doing ground beef, it'd be 160. So there's a little bit of difference there. This one's already perfect where it needs to be. We're ready to put it onto the bun. Decorate it however you prefer to have your buns decorated for patties. Because this one has soy sauce and some other things, I've actually got a slice of pineapple and some romaine lettuce. You could put some ketchup on there. You could put some additional soy sauce. Pineapple salsa might be really awesome. This is really all there is to it. It's fairly easy to do. It doesn't add a lot of time. All the chopping can be done ahead of time.
And it's a healthy and nutritious way to add a little bit of difference to your diet. I hope you'll give it a try. For Oklahoma Gardening, I'm Barbara Brown.
There are lots of great horticultural events this time of year. Be sure and consider these activities when you're making your plans for the weeks ahead. For the next couple of weeks, we'll be re-airing a few of our favorite episodes. Then we'll be back with more new episodes to close out the fall gardening season. So be sure and join us next week for more TV you'll grow to love. To find out more information about show topics, as well as recipes, videos, articles, fact sheets, and other resources, including a directory of local extension offices, be sure and visit our website, oklahomagardening.okstate.edu. And we always have great information, answers to questions, photos, and gardening discussions on your favorite social media as well. Join in on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find this entire show and other recent shows, as well as individual segments on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And tune in to our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel to watch segments from previous hosts. Oklahoma Gardening is produced by the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University. The Botanic Garden at OSU is home to our studio gardens, and we encourage you to come visit this beautiful Stillwater jewel. We wish to thank our generous underwriters, Southwood Landscape and Garden Center, and the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry. Additional support is provided by Pond Pro Shops, Green Lake Nursery and the Garden Debut Plants, and the Oklahoma Horticultural Society. We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.